All right, guys, you're on with week 9 with Rainmakers Weekly. Man, do we have an action-packed show for you today? I'm going to talk a lot about what happened last week. Go ahead and talk about what we believe is going to happen this week and get you to set your lineups the right way to potentially be the most lucrative, make the most money. Understand exactly what this is. It's for entertainment purposes only. Don't go out there and just, if you spend money and you buy these things, it's because you absolutely wanted to. You know what you're getting into. We do this for entertainment purposes only. So
yeah, if you win, we don't get any credit. If you lose, we don't get any blame. So, but yeah,
right.
A couple of things to cover. We were right about the points. Baltimore, Tampa, for a moonshot that, quote, went over. And if you listen to our last show, week 8, the Dead Fellas and week 8 lineups, at the 22:56 mark, we say no to Mark Andrews. What did Mark Andrews get you? At the 32:35 mark, I said Isaiah Likely and ETN, who all balled out, had a .0003% chance of hitting, and he hit. Around 44:39, we were talking about Russ, Jerry Jeudy, and I think your lineup there did pretty good, Dennis. And then at the 45:45 mark, I was going to do like a goofy sort of rip my headphones off and put this shirt on. I promised that if Kyle Pitts scored a touchdown and went over 60 yards and a touchdown, that I would put on this Florida Gators shirt. And he did. He had a very good game last week. And so I'm afraid to touch my headphone jack right now because of my computer's hanging on by a thread. But this is, I'm putting one up for Gator Nation right here. And we might have to put another one up after this week for Gator Nation because we got Kadarius Toney, who's on the Kansas City Chiefs, and he might ball out. Another 0.003% chance. So we'll see what happens. Again, not financial advice. So, Dennis, I guess let's jump right into it. What those lineups look like.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, guys, we're going to go ahead and discuss what we believe the main is going to be. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. As always, if you've never purchased Rainmakers or even know what it is, I mean, obviously you're listening to us now, you literally can join it for free. You go into your DraftKings account, you log in. It's going to say, are you doing football or UFC? Go right here to football, click to claim your free starter pack and build your first fantasy lineup. You jump right in here, and then you just hit sign up, and that's literally all you do. That gets you started, and then you can go ahead and get into the contests. Clearly, it literally tells you, get your starter pack, rip your starter pack open, go ahead and read the game rules. There's a lot of them, and draft them to see if you can make some money. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go into the contests. Now, this week's pretty interesting because there is a lot of teams, there are a lot of teams that are on buys this week. That obviously is going to affect your drafting decisions and what you're going to choose. The star players that you are like, man, I can't believe they're not there. Hey, guess what? They'll be back next week. So, but with that being said, you have to move some things around, and we're here for the movers and shakers to make this thing run. So we're going to go ahead and jump into it. We're going to go into the main lineup for core. That's this one right now. You can see it actually is live tomorrow, and we're posting this tonight. So when I jump into this, we're going to go ahead and draft it live for you right now. So there's a few different reasons why we're choosing these options. Number one, last time Seattle and Arizona played, we were expecting a barn burner, right? That is not what we got. It was also in Seattle. That is a slower field, just the way it's built. For those who, do over-unders and all that other stuff, just in general, you have slow field, outside, cold, rainy, just blah, versus a fast field such as Arizona, which they absolutely do have one. AstroTurf right there, speedy field, just all of it. With that being said, I truly believe it's going to be a completely different game than what we saw on a few weeks back. So for my star quarterback, I'm going to go ahead and choose Kyler Murray. He's a completely different quarterback when you have Hopkins with him. It's literally he just plays different, man. He really opens up, really gets you what you're expecting. Last week, he literally got you exactly what you expected. As Tom said, the Deadfellas lineup really did take care of business, really took off. Guys, there's a reason. So we're going to use Kyler Murray as the quarterback. For running back, this one's kind of interesting because number one, we're going to go with Walker, who's in the same game, because he's going to have a great game. This guy is definitely something to behold. If you don't hold Kenneth Walker, I will say again, not financial advice. You probably want to go ahead and pick him up.
Just look at
Try to
his
get the
last
lowest possible.
4 games.
Exactly. And again, this is the first time listening to our podcast or understand what Rainmakers is. The additions matter. The first week we did this, actually live, it was the Sly Crocs, and I wound up winning an NFT. I got second place, but actually I got first place, and I actually would have really got first place if I would have had a higher edition. Or, I'm sorry, a lower edition card. So it really taught me a lot of how important that is. You wouldn't know it unless you actually experienced it. So, with that being said, lower editions, especially when you're going to play them in a star lineup like this, completely makes sense. Next, we just mentioned him, Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins, also known as Newt. This guy is going to absolutely go off this week. He did not play against Seattle last time. That means absolutely nothing. He is going to crush it this week. Have Hopkins in your lineup. Don't think twice. Okay. Next one. So let's talk about this. I got a lot of flack when I was speaking this option earlier. Not to Tom, it was to another friend of mine, and he's like, everything with Carr and all this other stuff, and all they're thinking about is literally what they saw last weekend. They're seeing 24-0 and that the Raiders can't score, and they completely forgot about what Carr and Adams can do together. It's crazy how stuff like that can completely change. All right. I believe Adams is actually going to be a contrarian player because, he had the flu last week. Carr clearly had his worst game probably of his, and honestly, I don't know, career. I don't know. He got like 3 total fantasy points. If you had him in your lineup, sorry, man, you lost. Like, it is what it is. But Adams this week is set and primed to go absolutely nuts. You know that Jacksonville gives up points to wide receivers and just in general. Like, this, I'll tell you this. I think Las Vegas and Jacksonville game, I think is going to be very high scoring. I think it's an under the radar game, realizing that Trevor Lawrence actually can pass the ball. I do like for a tight end, just throw it out there like Evan Ingram. I think that he's got a lot of value. I'm not going to play him in my Rainmakers, but I will play him in my actual DraftKings, Millie Maker. For just letting you know, like there's a lot of people that's talked about it, thought about it. This game looks very appealing. It looks very high scoring. I'm not going to take any defense here, and I don't think you should either. Okay. Next we have, oh yeah, we've mentioned this guy on here before, Ramondre Stevenson. This man is primed to go off against the Indianapolis defense. I think Stevenson, here's the deal. People are like, he's just a running back. No, he's not. He's going to catch the ball a ton. He's a receiving running back, and he's going to be on the field basically the entire game. Well, the entire offense game. Like,
Ramondre Stevenson is like almost, I don't want to say a Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs level back. I mean, he's almost up there in my personal opinion, but he is the pass catching. His pass catching is on a level of, I can't even think anybody right now.
How about Austin Eckler?
Yeah. Yep.
I think of him as an Eckler for Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi, and I'll just tell you this right now: Bailey Zappi, in my opinion, is the better quarterback, and he doesn't need to be on the bench. But then again, I'm not Bill Belichick, so we'll just leave that at that. I think that he has the most potential. I think he's a star, and if he doesn't get to play anymore this year, he will be gone, and he will crush Mac Jones when he plays them, I'm sure, on prime time, just to show how good he actually is. So we'll leave it at that. Now, you're like the starting lineup, and I don't have Josh Allen, and I don't have Stephon Diggs, and I could easily put those guys in, right? And it's like, why? So, Tom, you mentioned this literally last week.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. You saw this game coming, and you were like, I think the Jets are going to beat the Bills.
At least make it real interesting.
I think that they could actually take them out. And I've looked at the lines, okay, for those who are out there, and wow, it's possible. Possible from that standard, and also people are sleeping on the Jets, and they're actually doing pretty well this year. So, with that being said, as Josh Allen go, the Bills go. Stephon Diggs is going to be covered. I'm not starting him in any of my stuff. I'm just not. I know that they beat him 45-17 last year. They're a completely different Jets team, okay? Stephon Diggs is going to be shadowed. And, if anybody went off this game, it's going to be Dawson Knox, Gabriel Davis. So if there is a way, and I haven't even looked at it yet, but if there's a way to play this game on Reignmakers where it's just solo, like, hey, this game only, which it may be there. I haven't looked, right? If it is, at that point, I would say Knox is probably a great value play, as well as Gabriel Davis, because they're going to be more open. Diggs is going to be shadowed. He's going to have an off game. Sorry, guys. Like, I have Diggs in 2 of my fantasy leagues, and I already know he's going to do, like, terrible. So
I have started Sauce Gardner in another league.
Yeah.
But that's going to be the 1 o'clock time slot. I seriously doubt that it would be a standalone Reignmakers contest.
Right.
But yeah, that game. And so here, let me show you the Bills. The Bills' last few games have been they lost to Miami, right? They're due for a clunker every once in a while. So they beat Baltimore 23-20. They blew the doors off Pittsburgh 38-3. They beat the Chiefs 24-20. They beat Green Bay 27-17. And so now they're coming into New York, into the Meadowlands, right? Let me see what happened. The last Jets, with like a hot Jets team, and I think the Jets I felt like they narrowly lost to a good team last week. New England 17-22, right? They beat Miami. Dude, the Jets had beaten Pittsburgh, Miami, and they blew the doors off Miami, 40-17. Like a pretty good Miami team, nothing to sneeze at. I don't know who was starting quarterback that week, but they beat Green Bay. They beat Denver. And then New England squeaked them out. But, you could chalk that up to what Zach Wilson, didn't he get hurt mid-game? And Bill Belichick kind of having young quarterbacks numbers and things like that. But
Right.
Does anyone remember? Need I remind anyone of what happened in a certain Bills at Jaguars game last year? The Bills got smoked by the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Urban Meyer coached, hapless, not a chance in hell they're making the playoffs. Dysfunctional, Urban Meyer's going around with Cougars or whatever. God knows what he was doing. Anyway, we're trying to keep this thing short. The Bills lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars last year, and the Bills can lose to the New York Jets this week. That's the point I'm making. So
there you go.
I'm not going to say expect it, but I'm saying don't be too surprised if it happens.
I could see it happening, man. I could see it happening.
Especially when these Jets are running around.
Right. All right. We're going to go to Tennessee and Kansas City. So we're going to go to the Sunday night football game. This is going to be a good game. It's going to be a good game. And we're going to highlight some players here that you've heard of, but maybe you haven't just seen them play. And now's the time where it matters. Now's the time when this particular player is going to go absolute bonkers.
Bonkers.
All right. bonkers. So, first off, I'm just going to let you know, anytime Kelsey's on the slate, he's just the captain. Okay? Just doesn't matter.
That's Kelsey.
All right? It literally doesn't matter. He's going to be the captain. Don't think twice about it. Pop him in there. All right? It's literally what he does. Yeah. Like, this is literally what Kelsey does. Okay? He takes over, and that's how it is. Whether they win or lose, doesn't matter. Okay? Next.
Mm-hmm.
This one is interesting because Henry's had, 3 games of just straight crush? Just boom, right? Just bowl over everybody? At some point, because if you follow fantasy, you know that he has his duds. I think this week he may actually dud it out. So, I don't really like Henry this week. I'm not going to include him in my starting lineup. I'm going to go ahead and do Mahomes, just because he's got a new weapon. He has a new weapon. You want to tell him about this new weapon?
The new weapon. He's been on the New York Giants, and somehow Kadarius Toney is mysteriously healthy. And, was one of these guys. His name is Kadarius Toney. This week, after being injured on the New York Giants for pretty much a full calendar year. For whatever reason, they traded him. Now he's healthy. Andy Reid says they're going to work him in. Kadarius Toney is one of those guys. I don't even know how to describe him. He's like Cooper Kupp meets Barry Sanders, Deion Sanders. There's a lot going on. He's dangerous. I mean, so I think you can catch this guy in the flat and he could go for 80 yards, like one of these. I think a night game, I feel a very what's been going on with easily. He could be worked into this game. He's a very Andy, this guy. He's kind of had a shroud of mystery around him. Does New York not like him? Was something happening in the locker room? They wouldn't get along? Was it like the trainers over there? I feel like it could very Reid type of guy because Andy Reid likes flash and splash and all this kind of stuff. Mahomes, obviously, he's like the Harlem Globetrotter of quarterbacks. And this guy, Kadarius Toney, he's this weird cog that's just what the doctor ordered. Not that Kansas City was struggling at all, but I feel like it's just one of those stars align type of things. And he's come off a bye. He hasn't played, and I feel like there's maybe a better energy going into this game. It just seems like there were problems in New York that you didn't necessarily hear about, but here he comes. And so watch out. We got another one.
Here's the deal.
Kadarius Toney.
Juju drops the balls. MVS drops the balls. That's continued all the way from Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Andy Reid was like, we need a receiver who can catch these things. Tony's that guy. Put him in your lineup. Next. So, this may seem shocking, but you got to understand, at some point, Tannehill's not a bad quarterback, all right? If Tannehill is playing, put him in. If he is not playing, trade him for Malik Willis and put him in. Either one of them, I think, are going to have a good game against this Kansas City defense. I believe that this game it's going to be a fun one to watch. It'll be a fun one to watch and probably going to be high scoring. I could absolutely see it being high scoring. I do see Kansas City winning it. But go ahead and put whatever the quarterback for the Tennessee Titans is going to be. You want to go ahead and put him in your lineup. In this particular case, it looks like Tannehill's going to play. It's still a question mark. I'm throwing him in. I'm throwing him in there. But if it's not, it will be Willis, and you can go ahead and just pop him right in. So easy swap out.
Yeah,
so lineup for Sunday night. Mm-hmm.
Tannehill is capable of putting up good numbers. He hasn't really done it yet this year. He's only got 2 games with 2 touchdowns. But when Derrick Henry hasn't really had a clunker yet, I don't think. And they're playing Kansas City. I feel like he'll be able to find an opening. The thing is with this, it's easier to put Tannehill in than it is to say, Westbrook-Akeen or Robert Woods or one of these like random wide receivers they have now that they've gotten rid of AJ Brown and Corey Davis. Like it's like who's going to go off? So with Tannehill, you kind of got your non-Derrick Henry bases covered.
Now, to be completely clear, if you do believe that Henry's going to go off, go ahead and trade Mahomes for Henry. Pop him in there. Feel comfortable about it. You should be good to go.
And then
all
probably
right?
pop
But
another
again,
Chief in where
you can only have
Tannehill
one
was.
superstar. Right.
Yeah.
You can only have one superstar. At that point, you may think about putting Henry. If you think that he's going to go off, you may want to put Henry in the captain. But typically, whenever Kelsey plays, almost every single time, every single showdown, he must be the captain because that's literally what he does. So, until proven otherwise, he is my captain. All right. So, got that in there. Next, we're going to go ahead and go to Monday Night Football. Guys, you want to talk about a good game. Baltimore at New Orleans. Monday Night Football. Yes, sir. This looks like fireworks to me. This looks like 60 points.
Yeah.
Maybe more. All right.
I'll
it
go
absolutely.
56.
You go 56? Okay.
Yeah.
I think in my pool, I've got a pool, and I think I chose 60 points on this game. Just because I'm a nut. So if you knew me in real life, you'd be like, yeah, that's about right. That's Dennis. That's the type of crazy stuff he does. With that being said, my goodness, Baltimore at New Orleans, Monday Night Football. Kamara's been going off, and we called that last week. Did we not? Didn't
we sure did.
Start Kamara. Don't think about it. Put him in there. He's had 0 touchdowns. He scored 3 last week.
Yep. He had over 100-yard games with 0 touchdowns, and so it was just a matter of time before, they shook the Coca-Cola bottle and the cap just went flying off,
That's what happened.
Week, so
that's what happened. So, final game on the slate, Baltimore at New Orleans. So New Orleans is hosting Baltimore. New Orleans, this will be their second week they've been home. That's important. That means they've been comfortable. They spent Halloween out there. They did all the things. And they've been home. So, with that being said, I believe New Orleans, for all intents and purposes, will win this game.
Okay. Baltimore played Monday night, right? So they're coming off nothing. No, they're coming off the normal week. Or was it last Thursday? I don't know. Anyway.
Or was it Thursday? It might have been Thursday. I think it was Thursday.
Let me look.
Right?
Yeah.
It was Baltimore at Tampa Bay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Baltimore has been away 2 weeks in a row. So New Orleans has been home. Now, people don't, they're like, oh, it doesn't matter. Blah, blah. Yes, it does. It absolutely does. It does when you have all that rest. You crushed the team 24-0 last weekend, and you have Baltimore coming in who's been on the road. All that matters. It's these little factors that people don't talk about. They absolutely do matter. And here's the deal. Jackson is Jackson. No denying it. Man is good. Really good. He's going to crush it. Captain.
In a dome.
Just
in a dome.
Put him in there, okay? In a dome. In New Orleans. It's kind of here's the deal. Like, a lot of times, and this is what's so, I guess you'd say, contrarian about this, because typically when you have that happen, right, the winning team is the captain. So we're going to flip it a little bit. We're going to go contrarian here. I believe Baltimore will lose this game. It's going to be close. New Orleans will win it. But I want Lamar as my captain because he's going to be doing a lot of catch-up, a lot of Lamar Jackson. Okay. Here's one that you're not going to expect. Andy Dalton. What?
Yeah.
You're going to start Andy Dalton, yes.
Go look at his stats is all I have to say about that. Go look at Andy Dalton's stats for the last 4 weeks to y'all out there.
Exactly. And Baltimore's DBs are absolutely terrible. They are horrible. They're bad. Okay. With that being said, Dalton can absolutely eat. And guess who's going to eat right along with him? Guess who's going to
Alvin
have the
Kamara.
come out game?
Oh, Olave.
Olave.
Yeah. So
Michael
Michael Thomas,
Thomas.
by the way, I don't know if y'all heard, Michael Thomas is on IR now. That like turf toe or whatever. That a couple weeks that he'll be back in week 3, or week 5 or whatever the hell it's supposed to be. Never panned out. They've been. You know what? He's gone. So this is where you say this is the rookie. Michael Thomas is gone for the year. We'll see him next year. This is supposed to be the guy that New Orleans kind of spent some draft capital on, and this is the young gun. And hold my beer.
Chris Olave is going to have the game of the. He's going to be welcome to the NFL.
He's had a lot of hype. He had a lot of preseason hype around him and pre-fantasy draft hype around him, and he hasn't had that game yet. That game that usually happens for rookies on Monday Night Football. Coincidence? I don't know, but that's what my gut's telling me.
With that being said, if you wanted to place Olave in the captain, I am not against it. I think that he's going to have an amazing game. All right. I think that he's going to literally show off. I am not against putting Olave in the captain, but I'm just not sure and confident I can do that with Lamar Jackson staring at me right there, knowing how well he plays. He's just an all-around player. I have to have him as my captain. But again, Olave, easily 1 touchdown, potentially 2. New Orleans does win this game, and it goes over. Like I said, I'm thinking 60 points. So
yeah. I think Olave will have 1 long touchdown pass in addition to a good night.
And the final, it's going to be lightning striking twice, man. Alvin Kamara. Here's the deal. Dalton throws it to Kamara. He's going to throw it to Olave now. He's going to throw it to both of those guys. You want them both. Kamara is set to have another big game. And you're like, well, how many touchdowns is that? Well, if Olave gets 2 and Kamara gets 5, well, that's 35 points. And then Lamar Jackson, they're probably going to score like 21, 24 because you have Justin Tucker. So that's 24. So to 35, what is that, 59? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So over 60 would actually put it at 35-31. Oh, I love that score. Oh,
66.
I think that's the score. I actually like that level.
Even 35-28 is 63.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can see a field goal in there.
35-31. I think that's going to be that score. I think that's how that's going to shake out. Keep in mind,
34,
Baltimore's
39
DBs are terrible. So New Orleans, they're just going to score touchdowns. That's what it is. All right. They're not kicking field goals this game. They're home. They've been home. They crushed it 24-0 against the Raiders, who are a good team. They just didn't perform last week.
Yeah.
Saints roll 35-31, 66 points. That's actually really good.
Last week is probably like a burn the tape game for the Raiders. It's one of those.
Yeah.
Derek Carr has a clunker every once in a while too. That's maybe why John Gruden never really loved him. But I think who are the Raiders even playing this week?
Oh man, Raiders are playing Jacksonville. I love that game.
Oh right, at Jacksonville, and you think, oh well, Jacksonville's outdoor and it's natural grass, so maybe not as fast, but it is going to be that 1:00 time slot, and it is getting into mid-November, so the ground's a little bit harder. It could be a quick game. I'm hoping. I would love to see an actual wavelength begin to form between Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. I haven't seen it yet. Josh Jacobs might run wild on Jacksonville again, but I'm hoping for a wavelength there with Carr and Adams.
Absolutely. So here we go, guys. Here is the lineups for the week. we have for the main, we have Kyler Murray, Kenneth Walker, DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Ramondre Stevenson. For Sunday Night Football, we have in the captain, we have Travis Kelce, followed by Patrick Mahomes, followed by Tannehill pending, and if not, Malik Willis, followed by Kadarius Toney, who is ready for a breakout game, ready to say, welcome to the National Football League. And in this particular case, welcome to Kansas City Chiefs. And he actually has a great quarterback throwing it to him. Man, I'm excited to see that connection. I think that's going to be solid.
Yeah.
Monday Night Football. Lamar Jackson, captain. Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, Andy Dalton. Book it. 66 points. I said 60. Probably need to go ahead and update. I really like the 35-31 score. I absolutely could see that being what happens. So
yeah, they were behind on scoring. I think they got people betting the unders, and now it's time to put the pedal to the metal.
Got to turn it all around, right?
Yeah. So
That's right.
and I'll go ahead and share my motley assortment because I'm working with a little less of a budget than Dennis has been working with, but I managed to put a few groups together here. I've got Stafford, Ramondre Stevenson, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans in one. Second one, I've got Justin Herbert, Josh Jacobs, Curtis Samuel, Gerald Everett, Chase Claypool. Third, I've got Kyler Murray, Kenneth Walker, Alan Lazard. I'm going to have to keep an eye on him. I might have to swap him out. Hunter Henry and Sauce Gardner. And then in the Baltimore-New Orleans, I have Lamar Jackson, Gus Edwards, which I'm probably going to have to end up swapping for Kenyon Drake or Justice Hill. And then I've got Adam Troutman, who I might swap for Juwan Johnson or Chris Olave. And then I've got Devin Duvernay. And then my Bengals game. Yeah. No, sorry. It's not the Bengals game. It's the Sly Crocs League, which you have to own a Sly Croc to be able to get into. I think Dennis is in here as well. I got Burrow, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, Alan Lazard, and Joshua Palmer. I think Joshua Palmer is going to have a pretty good week. That's someone we haven't even mentioned yet, but Mike Williams is out. Keenan Allen is out. So Josh Palmer's next in line. He's a big guy. He's not Parham big, and Parham is their younger tight end to Gerald Everett. Gerald Everett's their guy they got from, I think, the Rams. And Gerald Everett's, I want to say, like 6'2", 6'3". I want to say Parham's like 6'5" or 6'7". That's their young TE2 on the Los Angeles Chargers. Palmer's been a pretty solid guy a couple of times, but I feel like with Herbert's not going to have the option of Mike Evans like he normally does. So this is gonna really be where Juju tries to play Antonio Brown in Pittsburgh moment for him. And then Lazard, I'm just gonna have to keep an eye on him because I mean if he comes back, that's the one guy on the offense that Aaron sort of already trusts, and he's like a plug and play. But if Lazard doesn't go, I'm not even gonna pick another Packer, or I might throw like Aaron Jones in there or something. I don't know, but yeah, we'll see. Anyway, that's what I'm on for that. And let's see what else we got, Dennis.
I think we're pretty set, man. Maybe a few extra players that. Let me see here.
Yeah, let me just go down the. I'll actually just go.
So
down
we were talking about Jacksonville earlier. Etienne would be a nice shoe-in. We all saw what Kamara did last week. Now, granted, it is Kamara. But for those who know who Etienne is, he absolutely crushed it on Clemson with Trevor Lawrence. We called that was going to happen last week, and he did exactly what we said that he was going to do. I could absolutely see that happening again this week against the Raiders defense, which let Kamara run all over them last week. So Etienne is literally that type of player, and clearly there's that connection with Trevor Lawrence. So that's another one that I could absolutely see plugging in if you got him. If not, possibly picking him up. Obviously, Austin Eckler. I mean, it's Eckler, so that doesn't really need to, it's Eckler. All right. Let's see here.
So going down, looking at the Chargers-Falcons game too, because I know we like sort of glossed over a lot of players. for the Falcons wide receiver, a guy who I don't necessarily feel. I mean, he could do well this week. The last 2 weeks, he's gotten 1 catch for 75 yards and a touchdown, 3 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown, and he goes. They're at home against Carolina. The LA Chargers this weekend. Is Dameon Pierce? I don't know if any of y'all remember that name. He is one of those random guys. I think he was in New England last year when Tom Brady, or 2 years ago, when Tom Brady was complaining about not having any talent. He started going off a couple weeks ago. I don't trust him to quote unquote go off week in and week out because of Marcus Mariota, frankly, and a low volume passing attack. But he has been doing well the past couple of weeks, and I'm keeping an eye on him, and maybe he'll do something in the future, but I'm not holding my breath. So that's one sleeper there. And then for the Bears, Justin Fields and Chase Claypool is a duo that I will have my eye on for the next couple weeks.
Absolutely.
Claypool just
I think Claypool's going to eat over there, man.
Mm-hmm. He's 6'4", like 240 or 250, and Fields Fields is starting to feel himself. He's starting to get into a groove. So I would love to see that. It would make sense. And that Miami, you think Miami's gonna play defense? I mean, they have started at week 9 for the past 2 years, but we'll see. Brian Flores isn't there anymore, so I think that Dolphins-Bears, because Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and they're going to be flying around. I think Mostert's actually healthy for maybe the first 3 or 4 week stretch in his career in a while. I just think Dolphins-Bears is going to be a little bit of fireworks.
Could very well be.
Yeah, Panthers-Bengals. I kind of see Bengals, a chaseless Bengals bouncing back. Nothing spectacular, but they'll win because, thank God it's just the Panthers. But PJ Walker to DJ Moore. Who saw that coming last week? I mean, maybe it'll be a game.
You also got Deontay Foreman too.
Yeah, Foreman. Ooh, where'd he come from?
Hubbard's out. So Foreman again. He went off last week. I think he got like 31 fantasy points. So could very well be another plug and play if you got him or if you want to go pick him up. He's pretty cheap on REIGNMAKERS.
You got Lions, Packers at Lions. Packers they need a get right game so bad, and I feel like this is going to be it. The Lions they had some noise and some flash earlier in the year, but they've quieted down. They're 1-6. I feel like Green Bay is going to roll over them. The Lions, you might get some fantasy points out of like an Amon-Ra St. Brown if he's back on the field, or a Jamal Williams. What's going on with DeAndre Swift? I don't know if he's injured. I haven't really been keeping up with Detroit. But
Swift is injured again. Yeah.
He's
like glass. So DeAndre Swift, he has a great name, and here's the deal: people remember what he did and what he does. But when it comes down to it, he's a running back that is basically built of glass. So if you have him actually in your lineup, as far as fantasy, hey man, if you can get you a good trade to get rid of him, Jamal Williams is probably going to be the bang guy for the rest of the year, which honestly, in my opinion, he should be. He's a lot tougher, and overall, I think he fits the offense better. Swift, the problem is he gets injured all the time. So take that in consideration if you play, in a fantasy league and you have Swift and you're just kind of holding on to him. See if you can trade that man. See if you can get something good for him. So, that's my advice, as far as that goes. Now for this week, clearly, he's out. So Jamal Williams is the guy. But it is Detroit. And, the thing about Detroit is, I say that it is Detroit, man. They score a lot of points. They can score a lot of points. Yeah. And you know what? I mean, New York Jets did beat Green Bay in Green Bay. Seen a lot of crazy stuff happen, man. Who knows? So.
Yeah.
Not really. I'll tell you this, Tom. I'm not really sure how to structure that game. I'm actually staying pretty much far away from it because I'm so question mark on it.
Yeah.
I can't choose either way to go.
That's one of those. I mean, I know I would, gun to my head, I'd take the points in this Jets-Bills game. But I mean that Packers, and it's a divisional game too, so it's going to be a weird one. Yeah, but we already talked about Raiders Jags. Colts Patriots. Could Alec Pierce have a bounce back week? I mean, Sam Ellinger seems to have a little bit of a wavelength with him. We already talked about Ramondre Stevenson. Hunter Henry usually starts to pick up second half of the year. Bills Jets, we kind of talked about that already. You said Diggs is going to be covered. We had like a specific thing for that. Vikings Commanders. That could actually be kind of interesting. With Taylor Heineke, Washington's interesting again. You get Curtis Samuel's the most targeted guy. Damiere Byrd is back. I think he's one of those Ohio State track star guys. Diami Brown. On the Commanders. You got Curtis Samuel. You have Scary Terry. So that's going to be a weird game. Antonio Gibson. So Brian Robinson came back. Brian Robinson Jr. came back from his shooting, and they thought he was going to be the best thing since sliced bread. They put Robinson in for like 2 or 3 weeks, and they're like, you know what? Nope. Put Antonio Gibson back in. And Gibson has been doing Antonio Gibson things. I think he's literally gotten me in like a regular non-PPR league, like 13.7 or something like that the last 2 weeks on the nose. And Curtis Samuel's been getting about eight points on the nose. So yeah, the Commanders are interesting. The Vikings, weirdly, Adam Thielen, I think he's going through it a little bit. You got Justin Jefferson. Dalvin Cook was made of glass a couple years ago to your DeAndre Swift point. And now Dalvin Cook. I was holding Alexander Madison for like 2 years waiting for Dalvin Cook to get injured again. Because he's sitting there like snapping fibias, like I'm changing toilet paper. And it just didn't happen, dude. He just shows up and he goes to work and he busts heads every day. So, you got your usual suspects up there in Minnesota. And then Seahawks, Cardinals. I mean, Geno Smith apparently is a good fantasy relevant quarterback. So, there's DK Metcalf, Kenneth Walker Jr. having a great, young running back who's cheap, has never done anything bad for any NFL team. Then you going down. So here's an actual game that I think is going to be a lot more interesting. It looks like it's between two bad teams, but I think these teams are going to clean up their act towards the end of the year, and that is Rams at Buccaneers. 3-4 Rams, 3-5 Buccaneers. You see anything?
That's going to be a game to watch.
Yep.
Just to appreciate,
just to watch it.
We all saw what happened last year, and man, listen, Buccaneers should have went. If you're a Rams fan, I'm sorry, man. We all saw that game, so just so much to that game. So I still can't literally at the very end. Do you remember that game? At the very end,
when the Rams were just
long
beaten down,
and just at the end, right? Because they had them. I think they were beating them by 20 points or 24 points or something.
Was ugly. Yeah,
and then Tampa Bay came all the way back, and they were leading. And then out of nowhere, with 42 seconds left, Rams throw a bomb and go get a touchdown. I'm like, what is this? So, yeah, crazy.
Weirdness.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed Rainmakers Weekly. Go ahead and get those lineups set. Best of luck to you. Full success. We all, we want you to make money. Of course, it is not financial advice, but there's a lot to what's happening right now. People are still trying to figure out exactly what NFTs are, how does it work for entertainment with fantasy football and all the above. And there's a lot of things going on. And, if you got some extra dollars just to shell some places and just kind of see what's going on, man, it could absolutely take off for you, in a big way.
You could put your dollars in worse places sometimes.
You really can.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on Polygon too. It's had a couple little days. It's had a little bit of a run going here. Something's bubbling. Something's happening. I said this on last week's show too. Something weird's happening. I can feel we were here, and then now I feel this.
Yeah.
And then it's just
you feel the rumbling.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, picking up
All right,
steam.
very much. Well, guys, enjoy week 9. We sure will. It's going to be a great weekend of football games. Till next week. Take care.